Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the Board of County Commissioners. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have one quick change. We're going to move the HR quick little assessment all the way up to the top. Dennis, if you want to come down, this is just a quick housekeeping deal as far as the handbook review, and it probably won't take us 2 minutes.
All right. Questions?
I don't think so. This has kind of already been discussed.
Yeah, and
really
we were in contact with them this morning. Everything's on task to move forward, so I think we're good.
Okay.
So,
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
all right.
Very
Thanks.
good.
Thank you.
Quick and easy. All right. Buildings and grounds, Dustin, sorry. Justin. Gosh.
Answer to both.
Dustin.
Good afternoon. I guess one of the bigger things is we got all of our janitorial companies switched. Basically, we only kept one from last year. Everybody else is new. They have been, well, the one company worked for us before, but the one company had worked for us 2 years ago, so they kind of know the building they're in. So that's all switched out. And then we've been working on that generator project. The underground's in, the pads are poured, the ATSs are mounted to the buildings or pedestals wherever they were going. Generators are still not delivered yet. The lead time has been changed a little due to those hurricanes. So they're anywhere between now and April is what I was told. So.
I bet you they're building generators as fast as they can.
Yeah. So, and then.
So they're gonna get delayed again.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably with those fires.
Yeah.
Normal day-to-day operations for the most part.
Okay.
A couple little heater issues, but fan motor, miscellaneous
Did,
stuff.
did you guys ever get that when we did our walkthrough at the jail? And I think we'd asked you about this. There was it was either an exhaust fan or one of the fans in one of the pods. Did you guys get that repaired?
We'd put money in the budget this
Yeah.
year to address those issues.
There's a list of things, and then we have that capital budget for improvements this
Yep.
year. We were gonna start
Okay.
we're getting going on some of that now, so
Okay.
it's gonna be probably one of the bigger things for this year is working in there as much as we can, get things brought back up to a better level from lots of years of neglect probably, so.
Okay. All right. And then
Yeah,
there was a
I'll reach out to, was it Vicky that brought that up, or?
Vicky. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was the one that gave us our tour.
Okay, and then.
She had that, and then the showers, which we talked about,
Yeah.
going with an epoxy, something kind of like what they have at the rec center, in the locker rooms.
Yeah.
We can either use just the epoxy or the epoxy with that.
The sand like,
Yeah,
quartz or something like
yeah,
that?
Yeah.
so that it's
Kinda non-soil.
non-skid.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so kind of start looking at that too to see what we have to do to get those brought up, because I know she did bring that up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that was, I think, late October we did that.
Okay.
I guess been a couple months.
Yeah, it's been
Probably late
at least a
October.
couple months.
So,
In October, was it?
yeah, it was October.
Jeez.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
No, thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Shane,
Shane.
come on down, vehicle maintenance. Couple of lists or items to discuss.
Yeah, this is just January. There'll be an auction of Montezuma County, just some random vehicles and things, just to get this out to the public, this list, so.
Okay, what's the auction site?
Publicsurplus.com.
Publicsurplus.
Public
.com.
surplus?
Yep.
Mhm.
So, and this will probably be.
We've actually used that for what, 4 years, 5
yeah,
years?
Yeah, it seems to be the return is just as good as anywhere else, so
Okay,
easy to deal with. They don't charge us to list the stuff, they do a buyer's fee, so it doesn't cost the county anything to put it on their website. And seems to sell okay for the county, and anybody that calls, or you can just give them that website and basically anybody can bid on it, so.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes to people in state, out of state, sometimes here in the county, just,
Yeah, it's an auction that's covers all, 50 states
this'll
and
be the-
Guam, I think, right?
yeah. This will be the list of everything that'll be on there. Realistically, it'll probably be another week and a half before this stuff gets listed, and then it'll do a 10-day auction
okay.
at that point.
Is that, that 1985 C30 dump truck, is that the one that was out at the fairground?
Yes, that was
Forever?
the fairgrounds pickup, or was the fairgrounds dump truck. That is.
1985.
Oh,
I
no,
think
that,
was-
we already sold the fairgrounds. This one was the one that we replaced with that pickup for the road department. This one was in Mancus, and we bought that four-door Ford out
Wow.
of Delta here earlier this year and put a bed on it. So this is the road department pickup.
Okay. All right, very good.
And then next is bids from Enterprise on, we had discussed with Enterprise the pool cars and possibly upgrading the pool cars. And this is the bids that they sent in for those. The Equinox is the closest right now. It should be to that 10 or that 15-year, 150,000 mile mark. The Impala should be replaced by next year at the latest, so this would be getting a head start on that. We also have the Equinox and the Suburban, and then that little Bolt. And this is just kind of for you guys' information. You guys can make the decision, but this is a little bit bigger vehicle, a 7-passenger versus like the Equinox is tight 4-passenger basically, and the Impala is the same way. So it would be replacing those with a little bit bigger vehicle for going out of town.
So there were there were a few discussions that we had when we looked at this, Travis and I and Shane. A couple reasons that these are all-wheel drives. They're actually quite a bit less than the Fords or the Chevys if you look at the cost going across. And then he said the Fords we can't even get because, go down, Travis, I read that earlier, because they're not even,
It's the Suburbans that they couldn't
or
get.
the Suburbans.
Yeah.
So we thought that since this was still a 7-passenger vehicle, all-wheel drive, it'll comply with all the new standards, the new law standards of not having, everything's got to be hands-free now for phones. So these should sync to everybody's phone if they're using them out of town or anywhere, actually. So that's kind of what the bids were from what we could get that was as comparable. And they're not front-wheel drives, they're all-wheel drives, so nobody should complain about anything going anywhere that they have to go.
The only thing I can stress is it does say that they are quite a bit smaller than the Suburban. So I don't know if it's a direct replacement for the Suburban, but for the Equinox and the Impala, it would definitely be a move up in the world with a little bit more room.
I kind of liked what Travis had to say, like CSU is probably the biggest one to use that moving kids. But if they're all the same and you need one wouldn't do it. You could take the two and you should have enough for at least 12 people pretty easily with the cargo in the back. But that's just kind of what we did as far as getting costs back.
And I ran the numbers, and the mileage on those is up a lot. The Suburban got around 8,000 miles last year. That Equinox got almost 11,000 miles. and the Impala got around 5,000. The one that's used the least is that Chevy Bolt, and it's a lot of in-town running around. It's checked out a lot, it just doesn't go out of town a lot, and it's around 4,000 miles a year. So, the Equinox is the one that's used the most, and this would kind of, this is more like a Chevy Traverse, the same size as a Traverse. So it would be a little bigger than an Equinox inside. But the only one that's hitting that threshold of which we were talking about will be the Impala coming up. The rest of them are still a year or two out, but that's completely up to you guys how many to replace. And then other than that, there'll be a few other ones coming up that are in that 13-year status right now. There's still a detention van that they use quite a bit over at the jail that would need to be replaced in the next coming years. And Justin's pickup at the fairgrounds is getting close to that 15-year realm. So that's what we're running up against now. And we can either
So you had 3 you just mentioned, Shane?
three.
3 more
Well, there'll be 3
next year
Yes,
of
there'll
the
be,
pickup, the detention van, and what else?
I think that was it for next year. It'd be the Impala this year. Yeah, the Suburban. The Suburban's getting close. Suburban's a really low mileage unit, but it's running up on that years. It's 12 years old now. So it just didn't get used for a lot, and it's,
Actually, I think I'm going to check out that Bolt to go to my meeting in Pueblo Thursday. See if I can make it.
you're running at about $9,000 a year in lease, to lease that unit over the next 5 years. So, her Subaru, it would be at the end of the lease about 44,000 after all the lease costs.
So about 4,000 more than what the acquisition cost would be that's presented.
About
5.
7,000 more, yeah.
Okay.
6,000.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
Anything else, Shane?
That's all I got.
Okay. All right, IT, Mr. McLean. We have an MOU with Datasafe Services to discuss?
I don't know why they called it that. It's actually, I talked to Travis about this about October. So they are shifting gears and kind of going out of that business of hosting servers. So they have 4 servers available that are basically the same exact servers as our VXRL that we paid, what, $270,000 for, whatever we paid for them. I can get all 4 of them for 30. And I was going to buy 2 new servers this year anyway. I put it in my budget, and then I negotiated with Christine, and she's like, well, I'll just give you these 4. They're already right there. All I got to do is move them from one rack to another, and I'm done. So it's kind of a no-brainer for us. It's almost virtually the same thing. And I'm going to use them for other things. It's not going in the VXRail. I'm going to repurpose them to replace. I've got 5 servers downstairs that are just from 2008 and 2010. They're starting to give me grief.
You said you were going to get 4 of them for 30? 40?
Yes, sir. Combined, total.
Can't pass up that deal.
I was going to say that DX rail was just under 300,000.
It
Yeah.
was.
I remember when we did that.
It was. That's why I went down there when I found out they were doing it and said, hello, how much? So that's the deal with that. So I just need your okay with that, because I told Travis I was gonna,
We already have this budgeted though, right?
yeah, I put it in my capital budget for this, because I was gonna buy servers anyway, so it worked out.
Where are these still stored at?
What's that?
Will these be stored here?
No, well, I'll keep them over at 2210 in my other rack over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's where the DX rail's at?
that's where one of them's at. We have 2. We have one here and one there because they replicate to each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
I mean, that seems,
I don't see a problem with that.
any issues with that? Okay.
I don't really have a lot else to share other than I can tell you that I am thankful that I finished our network ring about 4 months ago. You know, I had been trying for a couple of years now to get this ring finished around the county. So if we lose connectivity somewhere, we don't lose connectivity. And unfortunately, without much warning, they took the power down at Annex 3 to do the generator power, but they didn't really tell anybody. And it killed everything over there. And before I did the ring, we would have lost connectivity in this building. It would have been over. But because the ring's done, everybody continues to work except for that building. So thank God we did that. Because it wouldn't have affected just us. It would have affected the sheriff's office, and it would have affected, well, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, because the servers are here. So thank God we got that done. So we're good.
Okay.
And we are officially moved over to T-Mobile on everything. Sheriff's Office, Health Department, Social Services, and Admin. Everything's moved.
Any problems with coverage?
Not so far. Have
Okay.
you noticed any, Sheriff? Have you noticed any issues with your coverage with T-Mobile? It's about the same, isn't it? Pretty much? Yeah, I mean, I get the same bars on my AT&T at home that I get on my T-Mobile.
I haven't had any issues.
What's that?
I have not
Oh,
had
you
any.
haven't had no issues,
No.
good. And I think in the end, it's gonna be cheaper, it's gonna be easier to manage. Yeah, I think in the end, this is gonna be the right move for us. So, that's done. We finished the sheriff on Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. The guy from T-Mobile actually flew out here and helped us do theirs because it was, 45 phones or whatever it is, and he spent the day here doing it. Anything else?
No.
No.
Have a good day.
You do the same.
Too. All right, Mr. Roth, GIS and HUTF.
All right, so, yeah, just a few things. We'll start off with the HETF. Of course, we have to present this tomorrow to get the signature page signed. But essentially, we haven't had any changes in services or additional mileage added to the inventory. So the reported mileage is going to stay exactly the same. After I went over this with Rob in Virginia, the only significant, overlay was on that section of Road S where they went from the, I think from the bridge up the hill to the gravel pits there. So that's all they reported to me. And so when we sign the signature page, it's nothing really reportable there. So that's good. The only thing of note there is that I do, and I have for a while, kept track of the collections that we've had each year. And when you first look at it, it says, well, that's great. We're getting, a couple $100,000 more this year. But you look at that amount of money, and then you look at the time span, and, if anything, it might be keeping track with the inflation. It might not even be keeping track with your construction equipment and materials costs, but it is going up. So that is what it is. So we had the map and really no changes there. So that's okay. We've had a lot of changes over the past number of years here as far as the HETF report. And so I will just bring that in tomorrow and report no changes, and I guess we'll get that signed. So any questions about that?
I have none.
And I think the chairman and the administrator, whenever we do the census boundary and annexation survey, it's done this time every year. It automatically CCs the other elected official and the administrator on that as an FYI. So that's what that was. Of course, the county didn't have any boundary changes for the year, but we also do report for Max Dolores in an agreement because we have that technical expertise to do that. So we did that at the same time. It's the same process. And of course, if you think about it, it does matter what the municipal boundaries are. And there have been small changes in the years. Dolores did annex that chunk up to the water tower about 2 years ago and got some better boundary surveys there. So we continue to try and make the boundary more accurate and more up to date. Of course, Mancus, they de-annexed the old Excelsior plant there about 4 or 5 years ago. So we just keep track with that. So that is what that boundary and annexation survey is. And I don't know if you noticed, but on our websites, on all of our web mapping, we did finally get some 2024 imagery that the state provided that I was talking about. And so if you look at the imagery, it's current as of late September. So you see some really new construction there. And so that
Is that countywide?
Countywide, statewide, really. But it's countywide, and in fact, we didn't even have to host that data. It's stored. We grab the web link, and we just add it to our maps, and it's fantastic imagery. Spatially, it's a little bit off if you look closely at it as far as where the property lines. We don't map off of it like that, but as far as seeing the structures, seeing the improvements, it is so current that, in fact, they not only flew it in late September, but then it had it processed and available by the time I added it to the web servers in October. So we've been going through all of our permits and addresses that we've assigned since 2020, and it is pretty remarkable to see the amount of construction that's happened out there, both homes and barns and other sort of structures. So that's fantastic. That made me happy. So we certainly won't be asking you for any new imagery for at least 2 or 3 years. So
Good. Now the assessor has all the availability to all of those.
yeah, and it's so current. You know, rarely do you get something so current that you can almost guarantee it's it's what's reflective of what's actually out there in the field. So. And I guess lastly, I don't know, last time I actually talked with you guys, but we assisted, we brought an MOU before the board. I think it was around early September, about assisting Dolores County with their web mapping. And we did complete that, and they're ecstatic that they have a web map back online. At this point, it's taken very little effort of ours once we did get it online for that. So their web viewer actually looks almost identical to ours. So why
And
really
that-
change anything? The
That
surveys-
covers all of Dolores County also?
all of Dolores County.
All of Dolores
yeah.
County? And it looks like ours?
Looks, I think, pretty much exactly like ours. We're going to be forced to update some of our public web map viewers because because you're always forced to update some technology in this coming year. Some of that technology, the platforms that we use have to be updated, but nonetheless, we'll just bring everything up to date here at some point this year. Still need to finalize getting that MOU passed around to all the municipalities because we did add additional entities to cover that whole PSAP to get it finalized through the board, but that'll happen, and I might just send a copy to Stephen just so that he's aware of what's in that MOU before we get it finalized. But
Okay. Very good.
I guess that's it.
Any questions?
Oh, I'm good.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Doug.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
James Dietrich, Natural Resources and Noxious Weeds. You get 2 of them.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Okay, we'll start off with natural resources. I'm still participating in most of the collaboratives that we've been working with over the last few years. Starting off this time with the Monolorus Coalition. We've been working with that coalition to develop a roundtable, and those roundtables will be meeting to help us develop goals and objectives for the proposed plan that should be forthcoming. One of the things I'm trying to do is really try to keep, of course, what they want is really to have the county adopt this plan, right? So I'm really trying to keep some of the more sensitive things out of that plan as best we can. For example, wolves. Maybe there's an angle that we could say that, well, what if a wolf shows up in Montezuma County? What are we going to do? Okay, fair enough, but I certainly don't want it to make it sound like we're advocating for wolves or anything along those lines whatsoever. And did make them aware of the resolution that we've got regarding the wolves. So those are the kind of things that I think we get bogged down pretty easily with this coalition, and so I'm trying to avoid that as best we can. We've met with the roundtables. We met back in November for the first roundtable meeting. We developed a couple of goals that came out of that. Those are pretty standard stuff. How do we keep recreation viable in Montezuma County without degrading the current level of enjoyment that we have, things along those lines. So they're pretty standard stuff. But again, I'm trying to just try to steer that coalition away from the sensitive stuff if they have any hopes of actually getting this thing adopted. So, and that will be going on for the next several months. We'll be ending that, I'm going to say probably around July. Of course, how things go, it could drag out a little bit longer. So we'll keep the commissioners informed on that. Also working with the Dolores Water Collaborative, formerly known as DWARF. As the commissioners know, they applied for the WRAP grant, the Watershed Restoration and Protection Grant. They were successful in landing that grant. So now we're going through a series of meetings where we're trying to identify the HRVs, high value, or HVRs, I guess, high value resources within that watershed. And of course, they will plug all the information we have them into watershed models that they're developing. And the idea is really to try to identify the pinch points. In other words, where we're going to see, for example, a bridge on Highway 145 or something like that's potentially susceptible to post-fire flooding. And again, this is all post-fire stuff that we're focusing on. So that is the idea, is to get it down to maybe like 4 of the primary pinch points and try to come up with some priorities. Assuming there's probably not an unlimited source of money, and so whatever mitigation work we do, we want to be very targeted with it. And I'll give you an example. One of the critical pieces of infrastructure might be the water intake for town of Dolores, city of Cortez, as well as Dolores County and Dove Creek. So that might be a place where we could say, okay, we want to do a bunch of mitigation work around the water intakes. So an example. One of the things I would like to do is meet with Jim Spratlin. We need to really, as a county, I think, come down to like some of the 4 things that we think are probably the top priorities, because there's just limited amounts of money. And if we don't come up with priorities, this thing's just going to be too big. Already the group had 59 high-value resources. Really, we can tackle probably 4 at the most. And as you can imagine, it's just like everything in the world, from bear habitat to cultural resources to all kinds of stuff out there. And it took an entire two-hour meeting get to the. We didn't even get to coming down with one priority. So I anticipate this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And again, I'm going to, unless Jim Spratlin's helping this, and I think he can provide some good input on that. Okay, for the IHOP affordable housing strategy, and again, talked to the commissioners recently about all this. I've asked for the project extension on that. They'll only give us a 1-month extension on that. We've got to have this thing finished by May. So I've gone around, talked to all the localities, municipalities. Of course, we've got one for Dolores that's already signed. If we can agree to that, we've got one in the bag. Manka says that they'll sign, and I sent them a revised, edited version of it, and they want to review it for a week, and I think that they'll probably sign. Have been working with the city of Cortez over the last week or so on this, and I think we've got them to a point where they said they were going to put this on the Planning Commission for review in February. So with any luck, maybe we can get this out the other end by the end of April, and we can meet our deadline on that. The other thing, though, is I did meet with DOLA today, and they gave me some reassurances that if we're putting forth a good faith effort, I think we have 2 of them in the bag, we're probably in pretty good shape. So again, they stressed a lot on that good faith effort, so I think we're going to be okay on this one. For Paso Mesa Verde, we're moving forward with segment A. That's the last segment that we're doing active design work on, and that is proceeding pretty good at this point. Segment B is through the design phase. I've got one last reimbursement request to put together for that one, and then that one is shovel ready, and we need to start looking for implementation money on that. With all these, there are going to be a few environmental clearances that we don't want to do to the very end because some of those have a shelf life. And I think I've already told the commissioners too that for things like getting the state land board lease, we don't want to do that until the very last minute because otherwise we'll be paying for something that we're not even able to use. So we'll put that off to the very end. Segment C and D is also basically shovel ready. We're going to have a meeting on February 5th between CDOT, basically all the partners, and try to come up with a strategy for moving forward with that. We've requested money to be reinstated, the MMOF money that was taken out of the project. We're asking for that money to be put back in. But we still need to have a broad strategy on how we're going to move forward with that. So we'll have that meeting of the minds to see if we can come up with a way to hopefully just shake some money out of CDOT is really what we're after on this. So, and again, that'll happen the 5th of February. So I'll bring additional reports back to the commissioners after that meeting. So we've got the links. That's a proposed federal action where they're planning to expand some of the habitat, critical habitat for the lynx. So I've been doing research on that. Comments are due on the 28th, so I'll have the commissioners some comments to provide to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at that point. We'll run this past the Dolores Watershed Collaborative also. It could have an impact on some of the forestry projects that we're trying to promote. Mostly, I think that the lynx habitat is up high, so for the vast majority of the projects we're talking about, we're in the ponderosa zone, which is lower than what the lynx are typically using. Nevertheless, it could impact some of the areas that we're talking about up in Dolores County in particular, and of course some of the drinking water sources for the town of Rico, which is a part of some of our forestry projects up there too. So we'll evaluate that and just see if there are any concerns that arise from that. As far as floodplain administration, we've recently issued a floodplain development permit for habitat improvement up in the West Fork. Those guys did, first of all, the project was promoted by Trout Unlimited. Those guys did an outstanding job of really following the process and turning in what they were supposed to turn in. They came through with a very well thought out set of plans. I issued a notice to proceed on those plans. 3 days later, they had the project done, and they turned in a certification from their engineer that said it was all built according to what they said they were going to do. So that one's in the bag, and that was a very easy one to do. We had a compliance issue just south of Mancos that I sent a compliance letter out in December, and this was regarding a building that was located in the AE flood zone just south of Mancos. And apparently the building had a water supply, had electric set up, had a composting toilet, and apparently was lived in part of the year. So the building did not get a floodplain development permit. So in order to achieve a floodplain development permit, they had to go through the usual process where they get the elevation certificate. They did need to address the anchoring because this was apparently what I was told was a tough shed. It was a very, very large tough shed. But apparently had no anchoring. And the other thing they needed to have was a no-rise certification. And so I advised them to get with an engineer to work through all these issues, which, for a tough shed type building probably would not have been terribly hard to correct. But the outcome of that is that we received contact back from them saying that they've disconnected the utility services and they intend to move the building. So if that's actually the case, then that'll make them compliant with the floodplain regulations by that approach also. Get a few calls regarding the solar, so I think we're going to probably start hearing more and more about that. And I would let the commissioners know that for the Coffee with the County that we're planning to have with the High Desert Conservation District, that is something that's on their mind, so we'll probably hear about it at that point too. And then the last thing I've got is that we've got 2 new commissioners up in Dolores County. I don't know either one of those commissioners. Since they are a major player with a lot of the stuff we're working on here, I want to go up there and get a chance to visit with those commissioners, see where they're coming from on everything. And certainly, you know, we want to try to provide as much support for Dolores County and expect as much support from Dolores County as we can possibly get also. So anyway, that'll be an effort I'll put forth.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I actually got a call from John Whitney, and I think he said that he had talked to you also. Yeah, I mean, I know who they are, but I don't know them. So it might not be a bad idea. Did they get sworn in today or tomorrow also?
I do not know.
They get sworn in tomorrow too.
Tomorrow too?
Yeah.
I mean, it might not hurt to invite them in here to a workshop or us go out there to a workshop. I don't know if they have them, just to kind of introduce each other and
Yeah, I
kind
think
of
that's a
go over
really
some
good
of that
idea.
stuff.
Okay.
That might be beneficial sooner than later if you guys think
Yeah, I
it's.
think so.
So
'cause-
maybe invite them to a Monday workshop or something?
Yeah, or we can even go out there. I mean,
Okay.
either way, I don't want it to just seem like they always have to come to us.
Absolutely.
We went out there, I know we went out there several times, and, I mean, that's kind of a good arm reach of a hand to say, hey, we'll come out there too.
Certainly.
So,
Okay, well, I'll try to make some outreach then and try to get something set up. And I agree, sooner versus later on this, we need some
yep.
back and forth.
Because there's still a lot of stuff going on, especially with this new Congress happening. I mean, yeah. I think with the whole new group, other than one, they might need some help from us
Okay.
of things that are going on. So yeah, I think sooner than later.
Sounds good. Now, I personally want that kind of rapport going back and forth. It's very helpful to work in conjunction with Dolores County. Okay. And then I'll kind of go on with the Noxious Weed Department report. We're pulling all of our data together to submit the reimbursement request and turn in all of our mapping data for the CDA cost share program that we've been managing. And so that is due on the 31st, and I'll have all of our data put together and enter it. We have to enter it into the EDDS MAPS program, which is something I'd never heard of before we got involved with the Noxious Weed program. So anyway, we're learning about that, and then I think all this will go a lot easier next year. They've already got some pre-canned data dictionaries and things like that will be very helpful for doing the inventory and mapping for next year. So then no word yet from NRCS on the reimbursement for the free Adafite, and it didn't anticipate anything. I think it'll be probably April or possibly even later before we really start getting any action on that one. So, but as soon as we do, I'll let the commissioners know about that one. I'm kind of chomping at the bit to see if we can see how much we can get back.
So are we.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, I think that concludes the report.
All right.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mel, you're next. Let's talk about alternative daily cover. How many options do we have? How many options do we have? Are they good options?
The options were approved to use.
Dirt, tires, and what else?
These,
Wood chips?
all right, I've got them numbered there, 1, 2, and 3. Two of these spray-on covers we've had issues with. The number 1, which obviously is the cheapest one, it's packaged in Houston, and it came up, and it works fine, but we have a health issue with it. When it came up here and got stored, it started growing black mold. And that's become an issue for our crew to mitigate. We're wearing respirators and dust masks. We're almost out of it. That's why we've got to get new ADC for the year. Number 2 is from the same company, almost the same stuff, but it comes from a different area. And it's pre-mixed. We don't have to mix the tactifier with it. The issue we had with it is it had some contamination in it, being small pieces of plastic and small pieces of metal that plugged up our pump and our nozzle on our machine that sprays this. Called the company, he made it right, sent us extra material, no charge. But that was kind of a minor issue. That's the only issue we had with that. Number 3, obviously, is the most expensive. It takes up the less space. It comes on well, they all come on pallets, but these are in bags, like a cement bag. And these other ones are in bags that are great big. And we get a semi-load of them. It takes up a ton of room to store them, both number 1 and number 2. Number 3 is the small bags. We can store them in a lot less space, and they're a lot less effort, a lot easier to use than the other 2, and it's more expensive. I sent a letter to the state, and they sent me back an approval. We're authorized to use this as cover as well. But it's the most expensive. That's kind of where we're at with those. I do not want to go back with number 1 if we can avoid it. I just don't like the black mold being in there and causing a problem. And for the difference in the cost between 1 and 2, it's not worth a chance.
And this is for a year,
That's for a year.
a year's worth. So if my math is correct, it's about 18% higher from the second to the third.
Correct.
So basically throw number 1 out, if you're having issues with it.
It's a good product. It probably works fine down there where they're at, but coming up here with that black mold growing in that bag, that's not good.
I'm wondering why it would grow mold. I mean, it has to
Gotta
have
expose the
moisture.
moisture somewhere.
Moisture
Well,
somewhere.
they're bagged in Houston,
Yeah.
high humidity area, and then it comes up here, and we had an issue with it.
Where's number 2 bagged at?
I'm not sure. They had a plant here in Colorado previously, but it burned down. That's why we had to go with the paper that is labeled number 1, but they've got a new plant going on. I'm not sure where it's at. I would say it's pretty close by the judging of the freight.
Get the same coverage about out of all of them?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, when you spray this material on there, they all look pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
Not that much.
Just give it a
For
shot.
a year,
Yeah.
divided by 12.
$600.
$291.
Yeah.
So basically, Mel, if you break it down to the month, you're $34.95 annually, and you're $291 a month would be higher than what you're using right now. I mean,
But like I said,
you,
it's.
you
it's
have
separate
that money.
product. Huh?
You have the money in your budget anyway.
We do.
So, I mean, if you think this is a better product and you're going to be able to store it and keep your room minimized better,
We will.
I don't.
They sent us a pallet out free of charge, not a whole pallet, but 10 bags. And he flew out from New York to demonstrate it, and we put it in our machine. And when you spray it on the trash when it's mixed, you can't hardly tell the difference in the materials.
And it binds it and it holds the trash,
It has
keeps
the
everything
tactifier and
from.
everything already mixed in it. You just
Flying,
open the bag
blowing.
and dump it in, and the machine mixes it up. Same way with number 2. It already has the tactifier and the dye and everything mixed in with it as well. They're just big. We get a semi-load of that. I mean, it's full, and it takes a lot of room to store all that. But it works great. We've had no issue with it, except for the little bit of contamination, which that plant's not there anymore.
I mean, my logical brain says to throw out 1, throw out 3, and take 2, but
We've never, other than
When
the
have we ever been
demonstration
logical?
from the guy from New York on that, but when you spray it, it's pretty close to the same. The big advantage is it's less labor intensive and it's less room to store it.
To store it, and I see that. So for the basically $3,500, $291 a month, I
We
wouldn't
may
have,
gain that back in labor.
yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with that. I mean, give it a try.
Okay,
It's not,
Try it for a year and see what happens.
if it was
I guess you'll make the official decision tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
But I think what you're saying is you recommend number 3?
We would like to try it. I know the crew would. They were impressed with it.
Okay, I've got that. And then I've got the percentages and the cost too, so.
Okay, that's all I got for
Questions?
today.
Anything else? I did have one other question for you, and Travis, you've probably already sent this out, but, because these costs are going up. As far as fees for the landfill, is everything pretty much up to speed?
Yeah, those costs are pretty similar to what we paid last year. They haven't changed a whole lot, but obviously they have gone up a little bit. Freight's always going up,
Okay.
yeah, just like everything.
Just kind of look at that and kind of see what we have to do, because the last time you were here, you said that we're still getting a lot of diversion from,
Durango.
on the other side, east side of the county. And that's, I know we wrestled with that. What are we gonna do with these fees? Our people, their people? But we still have to
Panda
make that.
Express, outfit out of Durango's they're bringing us 100% of the material now. They don't want to do business with Bondat.
Panda
So-
Express?
Yeah.
They have a
Trash
roll-off and
company.
trash
That was a
service.
Chinese restaurant.
Well,
Yeah, they actually bought a
I think there
shredder.
is too, a Chinese restaurant, but,
They actually bought a shredder and they shred their trash and put it in a 50-foot walking floor trailer and bring it to us, along with their roll-off service.
which is good because it's compressed.
We
I
get
mean,
better
that's-
compaction for the same money.
That's actually, for us, it's way
Yes, it
better.
is.
I wish we could do that.
Yeah.
Buy a shredder, $1 million shredder.
Well,
Get with the grant writer.
Huh?
Get with the grant writer.
Oh, we will. As soon as them grants come out again, I'll be
Okay.
getting in touch with Phaedra.
okay, so your recommendation is number 3.
If we could, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Sheriff and Vicky. Discussion related to the Southern Health Partners Jail contract. Good afternoon.
This was brought back in latter part of September, 1st of October. We discussed this. Lieutenant Pierce here can tell you about the contacts that we did after that meeting with SHP about lowering the adult daily population from 80 to 60 and what the measly cost savings would be. So.
Yeah. Their chief financial got back with me and said that if we drop to 60, it was their recommendation, since we were 9 months over 60 last year, and 1 month we were over 80. They didn't think it would save us any money, but it might cost us more if we drop that low. The decrease from 80 to 60 would annually save us $4,745, an average monthly of $395.42. So it's not real big savings. This year, our average so far just in January is 59. We have had lower numbers. Last year I did a calculation and our average daily population was 75 through eForce. So we're close to that 80 mark, even though it fluctuates daily.
Sure.
You know, our average population does. We have a lot of in and out, but they still see these people. They have to see them within 24 hours. Of course, most of the numbers come from the staffing, your cost, staffing and the doctor and, everything like that. That's what I got back from them as far as what we could save with dropping our numbers.
Yeah, we did discuss, we'll put out an RFP later this spring for bids for the medical providers for the detention center. We'll see what we get. They'll all be brought to you and you can decide what you want to do.
Try to have something really good for you that also gives the quality of service we would get to, because I think with the standards, that's going to be a key to us also. I realize we need to save some money, but the quality, you don't want to go lowest bid just because it's lowest. But I'll research that for us and get you some kind of presentation for that.
Okay. Still explain to me again, and I know you've done this before, but the per diem for greater than 80 inmates, the other $1.34 per inmate over 80, correct?
Over 80, yes. That's per
And-
day.
So if we went to 60 and our average daily population was 73 per month, you're going to pay that extra cost
Every day.
if we go over. And it's been nice to have our numbers low right now,
Mhm.
but you never know when they're going to go up again.
Sure, yeah, that's
I don't know.
roll of the
Changes.
dice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And with people and the changes that are happening, you know, people want people to stay in jail instead of the PR bonds for DUI or, you know, the things that we have happening now. So I could see our bond schedules changing also, you know, where they have to stay in jail for a little longer time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I brought that information to you before about what the judges are planning on doing and not letting a lot of these people out like they have been. So luckily we're down to where we're at right now, but I certainly hope it doesn't go over 80. I really don't, but we don't have any control over that. And we still have these costs.
Tell everybody to be good.
Yeah, well, help us, okay? You go ahead and tell everybody to be good, all
Yeah,
right?
be good.
That would, it doesn't
Be
work,
good.
but okay.
Stay out of jail. Pretty simple concept.
Yeah.
Go home, go to sleep.
Go home. That's what we'd like them to do.
Go
Stay
home.
home. Don't cause problems.
Go
Yeah.
home.
Go home and stay home and don't
Yeah.
cause problems. Yeah.
That would be too simple. But yeah, and you know, I hate to say most everybody we get that comes in, they have one medical issue or another. You know, having this has been priceless to us because, you know, I've had a lawyer, we had a recent hospitalization. Turned out they didn't have to go be flown out anywhere, be hospitalized. They came back, but I had a lawyer telling the judge that we were taking care of him properly. Luckily, we have SHP, they're corporate. Here's corporate, here's our policies, procedures, you know, and they kept him in jail.
They
So we
stepped
have
right
them
up
to
and
back us
there
up.
was no problem. I think your county attorney is aware of that. So, yeah.
Okay.
And a few that have been flown out, you know, to other agencies, to other hospitals.
So this is basically the 4% increase from last year, is what it's saying, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the way I understand this is that it's a renewal with a 4% increase, and I understand that, when this was before the board before, there were some questions about the increased costs, but at this point, this is an obligation that the sheriff has, is to provide these medical services. So I think it's really critical that we, limit the potential liability by renewing this contract now. Sounds like maybe there's things that could be done in the future as far as looking at what some other providers might be able to do and what that may cost. But from my perspective, it's really critical that this be renewed at this point so that we continue to provide those services that the sheriff is obligated to provide.
Okay. Question?
No.
Okay.
I'll also add that that's going to be one of the most important things when we put out this RFP for other bids, about what their ability is for civil liabilities on the county and on the sheriff, of taking care of these inmates and answering and addressing those medical issues that come up. And that's what these attorneys like to do. I'm telling you, they don't get an aspirin at the right time. Oh God, it's terrible. So.
Attorneys, right? Is that what you said?
Not talking about you, but sorry, that's what they're in the business.
I'm not taking it personally.
Yeah, please don't, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we already hit the human resource, and now we have a letter of intent. I read most of it. Basically, I think it's just saying, and I think that's Anita. or
Anita Muniz? And the only way we
Munoz?
have to contact her is her PO box. We have no
Okay.
number, no information.
Would you, is that what you take it at?
Mm-hmm.
Anita?
See,
Munoz?
Munez.
Muniz?
Munez.
Okay. All right. Did we put this one out? This
No,
was.
we got the letter. So it'd be, with this cemetery district trying to probably fill it would be hard. I mean, we can advertise it, but her term expires January 25th. If we want to put it off for a week and advertise it for 7 days, that would probably be
I think to be
something we should do.
consistent with what we have been doing, we've been advertising everything, just to say that we're staying consistent.
Yep.
I don't think 7 days is gonna hurt anything. I would think that would be better to advertise it than we have, at least put it out. And if we get one, we get one, and,
We did the rest, so.
We did the
Yeah.
rest, so.
but at least that way we're consistent with
Everybody
advertising
else.
everything that we always do. And nobody can say that nobody even knew about it.
I think that makes sense. Yep.
Okay. All right. With that, gentlemen, we have come to the end of our agenda. We will be in Mancus tonight at 6 o'clock at the Community Center, which is right on Grand Avenue, right? 6 o'clock. So if you have anything else you want to come and talk to the commissioners, the Traveling Town Hall, 6 p.m. tonight. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.
We'll be late tomorrow.
Oh, correct. And tomorrow, we won't start this meeting until 11 o'clock. We do have a swearing-in ceremony for Commissioners Copenhaver and Lindsay. That starts at 10 o'clock at the Combined Courts Building. And then we'll be back here at 11 to start our meeting. And then our regular afternoon public health meeting will take place at the same time. All right. We are adjourned.